So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our afternoon session. We hope that when you leave here, you will know who actually controls the green future. It's an interesting panel. We've got one person who's coming in a few minutes late, so he'll join us as soon as he can. Honestly, the green future, the transition, is really one of the hottest topics throughout the building today and yesterday. People are talking about it. People are wondering about it. Strategic minerals. What do you do? How do you make the transition? And we'll have all of the answers for all of that, guaranteed, maybe. You know, the transition to renewables by itself is a significant challenge, but so is part of that finding strategic minerals, accessing them, and then competing with other countries to actually get them. It's and let's not forget developing supply chains, which is also actually a critical part of this. There is a significant competition for these minerals, and there are costs to well, civil society, populations, and what you're going to hear today is discussion about a fairly new field of international relations. How do we cope with this? Everybody in the world is talking about strategic minerals. Central Asia is actually a focus of global interest right now because they know there are strategic minerals here. And I think the governments in the region are also very happy to let everyone know that there are strategic minerals here because it's to their advantage to do so. So we'll also look a little bit about environmental concerns and how you address them, because mining can pose significant challenges and problems. So for at least our two panelists who are here today, first off, Sonia Bojanovska. She is the Minister of Energy, Mining, and Mineral Raw Materials. She is the first minister in that job for North Macedonia. We have Saken Shayachmetov, who is Kazakhmys Corporation's Managing Director for Sustainable Development and Communications. They both come with armed with a lot of knowledge and practical experience, and I'm going to have each of them speak for a few minutes, and then we'll go into a couple questions that, since I get to ask them since I'm sitting up here in the control chair, but then we're going to turn to all of you for questions if you have them. So perhaps I can start with you, Sonia.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It is a great honor for me to be a participant in the Astana Forum, and the Connecting Minds Shaping the Future is really a great slogan. Regarding the green future, I come from a country which was mostly coal-dominated, and in, let's say, our biggest power plant is coal-based, and it was built in the 80s. However, regarding the environment, air pollution and so on, especially in Europe and European Union, the trend is to go green and to have transition to renewables. I'm sure that you followed a couple of weeks ago what happened in Spain and in Portugal, and these are the countries in Europe with the most renewable energy. So I think after this, the whole Europe is aware that we need to follow up with the transmission lines and the infrastructure, because energy security is a very important issue. So it's good, the renewables are very good. However, they cannot subsidize the baseload power which is received from the coal. So what is very important for all the countries is also to cooperate, to have regional cooperation, and to have big investments in the infrastructure and in the grid. So the green future is something that all of the countries in EU and I'm sure in this region are going forward. Today I had a meeting with the Minister of Kazakhstan regarding energy, and he said that he has very serious plan for energy renewables, for hydrogen, building solar, building wind farms, and also battery storages, because the future is in, let's say now, everything is dynamic, so we are moving from the coal to battery storage and also to new ways of hydrogen, so all the pipes are hydrogen ready. So we need to think also about the environment, which is very important. So regarding the energy produced, we also have certificates, meaning that every kilowatt hour which is produced, you get the guarantee of origin, and then you can trade this within the countries of European Union. And this is also good for the companies, because a lot of companies which are international want to have green energy. For example, they have the certificates and they are green. So the international companies want green energy, and this is something which is now a trend, and it's in all EU and the countries which want to be in EU. So these are the latest developments in this area. Regarding the mining, we are developing new law and we are implementing all the good practices, meaning environmental friendly, and all the new standards which are helpful and protecting the environment. So we are very environmental friendly, and we want to protect the citizen, and also we mind the air pollution also.
All right, thank you very much. Let's turn to you, Sakin Shayakhmetov, sorry, and maybe you can do your opening statement.
Thank you very much. As Sonia has mentioned, it is also a great honor for me to be here. I mean, I think this forum that has been, ongoing in Astana is a really great place to connect minds, and well, hopefully we will shape the future, at least in this locale. So in terms of the race for the green to the green future and who controls the green future, I think it's a topic that has been at the top of the minds of the leading scientists and politicians throughout the world. The challenges that we are facing currently, the geopolitical instabilities, the issues that we have with environmental issues, these are topics that definitely will be shaping the way that we do business. Kazakhmys, just in a few words, if there's anybody who doesn't know, Kazakhmys is the biggest producer of copper in Kazakhstan, one of the biggest in the world. Well, we're definitely contenders up there. And then, so, being a copper producer, we are acutely aware of the role that copper will be playing in these kind of transitions for the future. Based on the current projections, we will be facing a quite substantial shortage of copper by 2030, by the end of this decade. And that poses a lot of questions for companies, for countries, for policy settings, for general the balance of not even afraid to use the word power in the world, so to speak. So these questions that we have, I think it's good to discuss them. I think it's definitely very important that we have an open discussion in terms of how we balance the goals that we set before ourselves. We have the SDGs, we have the the environmental movement, but we also have a little bit of a pushback from a certain big economy in the world that has different ideas currently and how this green future will be shaped. And given all of these different kind of scenarios that might happen, I think that there are a couple of axioms that we should be aware of. First of all, the energy transition will happen either we like it or not. I think that is a train that has and will be steamrolling very confidently into the future. Copper is the sinews and the veins of this energy transition, whether we like it or not, or unless maybe a student expelled from Harvard who moves to Singapore now comes up with a new super material that will replace copper. So, but until that happens, copper will play a dominant role in any transition that we have, from EVs to grids to robotics and so on and so forth. So that's definitely an axiom. And then the only way that we as as a society. There are, I guess, two players in this transition. First of all, obviously, it's the government. And then when we talk about governments, I think the governments that will be able to adapt to the changing geopolitical situation, who will be able to be flexible in the way that they regulate this sphere, because obviously regulation is required. I mean, we see what can happen, like in, for example, in DRC, where the situation is concerning, when there's no regulation and there's no strong state support and kind of guiding hand in how we develop these reserves. But on the other hand, we also see the problems and issues that are arising in Europe because of over-regulation, in my opinion. We see that the timelines, even in the most optimal conditions for developing a true greenfield in the copper industry, is 5 years, 7 years. With over-regulation, I've heard colleagues saying that they've been working on putting this project online for the last 15 years because everything you need to go through the municipal level, the national level, the EU level, the UN level, or whichever level you want to think about. And then while, by the time they get the permit, it might not even be economically viable anymore. And then in terms of the companies, the way that the only way we can be prepared for this transition, that I think will definitely happen one way or another, is I truly believe that the basic principles that are the foundation of ESG, in terms of being sustainable, in terms of being agile and being adaptable, these guiding principles, they don't really have a fashion to them. It's not a fashion. It's something that if we want to survive, we will have to be able to look at it. Obviously, we need to kind of step away from some of the things that have become a little bit maybe decorative. But the core idea of being adaptable, sustainable, in connection, and very strongly synchronized with the local communities, these are the underlying basics of how we can be successful as companies in terms of participating in this race for the green future. So, yeah.
That's great. Absolutely. I'm not sure if everyone in the audience knows what a greenfield project is. I'm not a true expert, but I actually know the answer to this one. It's where the fields have grass on them, and underneath somewhere there are rocks, but you're starting from scratch. You're starting to have to build the mine and go from there, as opposed to a brownfield project, which is actually already underway. Correct? Did I get it right? Yes. All right. No, you don't have to apply for that. We're still waiting on our third speaker. So, if I can, Sakyan, let me just follow up with you. How do you see, from your perspective, the challenges of scaling up mining and supply chains? What's to be done? I mean, we look at Central Asia, which is really kind of in some ways already engaged in the process, but in other ways really just starting out.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and since you've clarified what a greenfield is, let me clarify what a brownfield is a little bit more, in terms of, brownfields are obviously projects that are underway, but you need to find new ways of extracting, be more efficient, maybe working with the waste that has been formed over decades of initial development. So basically all of these, that's what a brownfield basically is when we look at it. In terms of dealing with the issues of scalability and the ways that we can address this upcoming shortage of copper that we spoke about, by the end of this decade, I think that well, first of all, I think Central Asia is one of the few areas in the world that still has potential for greenfields. For big and truly lucrative, interesting, major discoveries, I do believe that we have that potential. But even if we do discover something like that, the technical expertise and the technology that we will be forced to use to extract it safely and profitably, those challenges will be, they will be gargantuan. They will be extremely hard for us to achieve those, which is why obviously we will be pushing for these. We obviously will be looking for them. The government has been very active in attracting foreign investors, attracting foreign companies to kind of address this greenfield issue, to find new fields. But in terms of companies that have been an operation for decades and decades in Kazakhstan. Actually, when I heard that power plants have been built in the 80s, my first reaction in northern Macedonia, I was like, oh, that's pretty new, compared to the stuff that we're forced to work with. One of the power plants that we have, for example, in Balkhash, will be 100 years old very, very soon. So these issues, they're definitely there. So for companies that have been operating in the country for a very long time, again, tackling the brownfield problem, I think is a big one. I think that's kind of the potential for us to be able to look at our old and existing deposits and fields from a new angle. Technology has been moving forward. There's been developments in terms of leaching procedures. So the ways that we can address these and applying new technology. And that's actually what we're pushing for in Kazakhstan recently. With the Prime Minister has also asked us to look into these new leaching technologies that we have. Looking at ores that have that are not as rich as they used to be. First of all. Second of all, we have the two basic ores that we work with, and one of them is easily treated and enriched through existing procedures. The other one requires innovative solutions. So basically, the way I see it is it's a two-pronged approach. First of all, we have to come up with regulations that allow for green fields to move faster, but that still takes a lot of time. And second of all is trying to harness the power of technology. I mean, I'll jump on the bandwagon and say AI for mining and leaching and all that kind of stuff, but in reality it's hardcore science that needs to be done in a lab. Scalability is an issue. So the second approach is further developing our brownfields with new technology. So basically that's how I see that we will be able to address this shortage of copper to be able to continue our work, basically. Yeah.
Well, perhaps one bright light in this is the United States is now no longer making copper coins, so that's a lot of opportunity there. So, Sonia Bojanovskaya, you're the first minister of a resource-rich country, but which is a very small mining sector. And you already are experiencing the issues of waste and land decline. How are you approaching the green transition? What are you doing?
Thank you. This is a very good question. We're a 2 million people country, but we have a very good strategic position. So we are crossroads from South Europe to East Europe. So in Baku, it was stated that we will need 3 billion in order to go green. So this was estimation only. That includes infrastructure investments and also investments in the green and renewable energy. Therefore, we contacted a lot of financial institutions. So we as a government, we have to cooperate with the private sector, but also international finance institution, meaning European Bank for Development, the German Development Bank, KfW, the French Development Bank. There is also World Bank. And all of them are having a project. So we have a pipeline. And we have also just transition process, meaning this is a big pipeline and we have milestones. Since we have a lot of more than 5,000 employees in the coal sector, so we have a program for requalifying and reskilling all these people, because we can't just from tomorrow say, okay, from tomorrow you don't have jobs. We have to think of them, and we need to find tailor-made solutions in order to requalify these people. Then we are thinking of also building cogeneration plants. That means we can have heating and gas at the same time. So we are planning 500 megawatts of installed capacity in order to subsidize the coal. And then we have planned for a big hydro project, and this is something that will take at least, let's say, 8 to 10 years, and it's around 350 megawatts, and it's an investment of at least 1 billion. So these are really big investments. So we are talking with with a lot of international companies and international finance institutions, because we have to have certain legal requirements, and then what we are aware is that we need a good legislation, both for the mineral resources, since our neighbor Serbia had problems with the lithium, since it's now very popular, also Portugal. So we are thinking of a new law, and the new law will be according to the EU practices. I am aware that in Asia, I have to say the technology is, let's say, modern, and they are moving faster than Europe, I can see. Yes, I can see even in the infrastructure, so I hope that we will cope. And as second said, the legislation, it's too regulated, so we need to be more flexible. And regarding the technology, we need to see the AI and digitalization also. It's a very important milestone, so we need to see how can we proceed with this, and how can we use AI in order to have better performance, and to see, and in the end, to have a better life for our citizens, meaning good environmental standards and clean energy.
Well, you hit a lot of very interesting subjects there. I guess I'd follow up wondering, with so many international financial organizations engaged, the EU and others, for such large sums for such a small country, where you also have to deal with right-sizing the cost of energy, which ends up being part of sort of the downstream from this entire process. How do you cope with all of these challenges if you are in the process of actually trying to do this green transition? It seems almost an insurmountable goal.
At the moment, we are doing good, because we are subsidizing the energy cost, but this we see as a government as a long-term investment, meaning it's a long-term investment, and the money will be, it's not immediately, it's on installment, so we are not immediately taking everything. And we are now also investing in the infrastructure and in the grid, because we are now also connecting, we have a gas connector that we signed with Greece. We are also connecting the country, the electricity transmission line with the neighbor. We have with everyone except with Albania, and then Albania is connected to Italy. So we are now mostly both investing in the infrastructure and in the renewables. And we know that it's a lot of money, however, it is year by year, so it's not everything that at once. So we have like medium to long-term projects, and then we will see the costs. However, we are aware that this energy is a necessity, a commodity that is needed, so it's something that we have to do for the citizens of the country as a government.
I was a little surprised by your comment saying that Asia is much farther ahead and Europe is farther behind in technology. That kind of goes against what we always think, but that's reality. Wow, that's the reality. Okay. Go Asia. I'm interested, Sakin, with you know, obviously there's the challenges of scaling up, but I'm also wondering, part of the challenge for Central Asia is actually, if you are able to mine these minerals, how do you make them, how do you move them, how do you get them cost effective for whoever may be purchasing them? You know, has the middle corridor had an impact on developing supply chains in Central Asia? There's more connectivity between countries within Central Asia than ever before, so I wonder if that's a help or maybe a hindrance.
Yes, definitely. I think that's also a vital question. You know, it touches upon, I guess, two kind of aspects. Well, first of all, the basic question is, why are we forced to kind of export our raw minerals and materials? And that's always the issue, and that's connected with the issue of not having enough production and capabilities of making something out of the copper here in the country, and that's always been an issue. I think that's has been the guiding principle of many a government of Kazakhstan, trying to create these facilities and production capacities, but we're forced to live with what we have. So in terms of the dynamics of our exports, for example, in terms of Kazakhstan in particular, in recent years, in the last couple of years, due to some certain political issues, and then also obviously because of the middle corridor becoming more and more kind of having a lot more throughput capacities and availability for transportation, we have seen about a 10% shift from our traditional export routes to China to now through the middle corridor to Turkey and the Middle East and so on and so forth. So basically there is that transition and has been gradual, primarily because there's the demand in China has been kind of going down a little bit. We do know that there's structural problems and issues because these new renovations and kind of attempts to revitalize the Chinese economy, being a producer and construction and all of these other issues. There's some instability and uncertainty, so we do see that's part of the reason why we're shifting. And then there's also some pricing issues, but also because the middle corridor is now in operation, so that does allow us to be able to export there. Obviously, in terms of metals, there are neighboring countries that have a high demand for metals currently, but we in Kazakhstan are very much aligned with international sanctionary policies, and we do not sell to anybody else. So we stick predominantly to our main partners in China and the Middle East. So yeah, the middle corridor I think has huge potential, but again, during the drawing the analogy, the middle corridor is kind of like one belt, one road, Silk Way, all of these kind of issues. And the reason, the issue that I always had with it is that there's the center of commerce, science in the east, and one in the west, and and then we're in the crossroads, and then almost nothing gets kind of built up here. We just, as long as we do not remain strictly as a transition point, but that we also are able to build ourselves, build our economy into the value chain, not just the supply chain. I think that's something that we should definitely be working on. And this transition, I think, will be able to give us some opportunities in that respect.
I think that's a really fascinating point. If you, being in the copper field, China has a tremendous number of facilities for processing copper, for refining, and that's where the value is really added to the commodity. And as you say, that's the opportunity potentially in Central Asia to be able to start doing some of those things here, adding the value, and then maybe selling the product at a for a much higher price if you're going to sell it or not use it for yourself. So value chain wise, that can really make quite a difference. I guess I'd ask both of you this, since you come at it from very different perspectives, which is kind of the purpose of this panel. Mining minerals has a very bad reputation. It's a dirty business, and I at least by reputation. Is air pollution, is water pollution, land decay, is this just inevitable for countries if they are to pursue strategic minerals, rare earths, that sort of thing?
I will tell you an example from my country. In one part of the country we have two big mines. It's UK owned. So I went there, I visited. The conditions for work are perfect. The environmental standards are very high, and all there are cities next by, all the citizens are very happy with the mine. So they are really happy. There was no accidents and the standards are really high. On the other hand, at the other part of the country, there is an attempt to have a mine and the people protest. So it's in the same country, we are small. They are protesting and saying that they will destroy the air, the water, there will be pollution. So it's also it's the perception, and we need to see in reality what really happens. Because the city where we have the mine, it's with tradition. So all the people there are employed and they all see that nothing happened so far, and the management is also from UK. So it's really something that they have really high standards. And we try also as a government to have very good legislation regarding this and to have protection of the environment. So it's not really that it's very bad and it's dirty. The standards are changing. So I think maybe 50 or 100 years ago it was, as you say, dirty. But now there is so much new technology that is really going forward. So it depends when you go and see. I also had the perception, but I was also down minus in the coal. So it was really different when you go and see and when you hear that it's dirty and it's not good and it pollutes the air. So it's really you need to see and just to communicate with others.
Very interesting. So we'll welcome Dauren Mendeshov, who is the Deputy CEO for Strategy and Transformation at ERG. We're going to give you a couple minutes because you've been running to get here. We'll let you calm down for a minute and we'll let Sakin finish with this question and I'll turn back to you for an opening statement.
Yes, so basically I think Sonia has really touched upon really good topics. You know, as long as there's regulation and there's a willingness to be clean, I think it can be easily achievable because the technology allows it to be so. And then there's also the issue of, you know, there's higher premiums that are being paid, you know, with the pricing increase. And so basically it just depends on how these companies that are getting the premiums, how they spend those premiums. So basically you can either invest further into kind of looking for new reserves. You can invest into maybe further integration downstream, coming up with new ways and new things, new products that you can, you know, produce. You can also, you know, focus on safety. You can focus on the environment. So that's why when I say, alluding to the previous point, you know, that, you know, these standards, these kind of sustainability issues, they have to be at the core of a company because they allow for a company to be able to be prepared for the future. So I think if a company has those kind of core values and it understands that in order for it to be able to operate 10, 15, 20 years down the line, it has to be in a good relations with the local communities. Being, you know, good relations with the local communities, you have to be clean, you have to be safe, and you have to be conscious of all of these things. Otherwise, you know, there's a protest, you know, there's God forbid riots, there's, you know, stuff like that that will not allow you to be able to operate. So I think the level of development of societies globally has reached a certain point where they demand these things, and only the blind and deaf do not understand that this is a change that will stay, even, you know, regardless of policies. You know, the people definitely want this. So I think, you know, that's definitely where we move forward, a way to move forward. So speaking of clean, I think it's achievable. And then, you know, alluding to also speaking about one of the previous points, you know, in shortage of supply of copper, you know, the metrics differ, but I think it's, most people would agree that more than 20% of the current copper supply comes from recycled material. So basically focusing on those issues to be able to provide new ways to capture and reuse materials is also a good way to kind of keep the supply of new copper for new elements, for new machinery, computers, what have you, is also a way to move forward. And that again means being cleaner, less extraction, and, you know, less damage to the environment. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you. So, Dauren, why don't we give you an opportunity to make your opening statement. I know ERG brings years of mining experience and global experience in sustainable development and how it works in this particular field. So I turn the floor to you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone. I'm deeply sorry. Speaking of the logistics issues, right? So I stuck in a traffic jam for more than 1 hour. So it's really, I mean, it's really here, and it's not only about the commodity traffic, it's also about us. So yeah, speaking of the resource race and how, let's say, new normal is affecting us, I would start with our ERG status quo, or how it was. So basically, ERG produces 6 core products, 4 in Kazakhstan, 2 in Africa. So in Kazakhstan, it's ferroalloys. We are #1 producers of ferrochrome. It's aluminum, primary aluminum. It's also coal, speaking of the green future, and it's also, last but not least, is iron ore. We also produce energy, but it's for internal consumption majority. In DRC, we are producing copper and cobalt. So we are benefiting a lot of this, I would say, free trade world, because we are selling across the globe. Either we're speaking about CIS, Europe, US, Japan, China, and other regions. Of course, depending on the product. But recent geopolitical tensions hit us badly. So sanctions fired back at us on iron ore business. Now we have a lot of logistics issues because majority of our products went through Russia. Now we're figuring out how to change it. Yes, we started selling more to China, for example. And third, the most recent one, it's an export ban that will be subsequently moved to export control in DRC of the cobalt. But also, let's say, new normal, how you call it, we see new opportunities. So critical raw materials becoming, as majority of saying, it's new gold or new oil. For us, we see some opportunities in our bauxite-rich minerals. For example, in our bauxite, we have a lot of gallium. We have quite a good concentration of vanadium, some scandium, and also we are the only aluminum producer in Kazakhstan. And aluminum is also considered as a critical for our energy transition and green transition at all. So we see these opportunities, we try to capture it, so we are seeking for technologies, for example, for vanadium extraction, and we also work on that with the with the partners across the globe. Right now, currently, we have a lot of discussions with our partners in Europe on technology transfer. Here on AIF, we had discussions with a couple of US companies. We have a lot of discussions with Chinese companies because they, in terms of technology, they outpaced majority of countries so far. And that actually was the point when I just entered. So, yes. Yeah, and we also, I mentioned energy. We have some discussions with Middle East companies on energy. So we, as the #1 consumers, I also want to discuss this topic because green future, it's mainly about green energy and energy security. So you know that historically Kazakhstan, it's a coal-rich and 85% or so, it's a coal generation energy. But the current trend is that we have a lot of new renewables, especially wind. It's speaking about the intergovernmental agreements for 6 gigawatts, but it's just the beginning. What we see, so Kazakhstan has a unique position in the renewables, especially wind. We have vast steppes, so where with quite windy, it reaches out up to 5 to 7 meters. In some prime locations, it even goes further to 9 meters. And there was numerous, let's say, calculations. One of them, it's like our total wind potential is 1 trillion kilowatt hour per annum. It's 8 times more than Kazakhstan consumes right now. And what it means that potential additional growth point for Kazakhstan to provide this energy, not only for internal consumption, but also to export that, and in various forms. Recently, so we are, I mean, not we as ERG, but overall as a country, discussing selling and exporting green energy to Europe via Caucasus. But you know that there are other forms how we can export that. Either it's a green hydrogen, green methanol, green ethanol, and other forms. And we as metallurgists say that also one potential form of exporting green energy is a green metallurgy and value-added products. That's our overall perspective. But if we are talking about our sustainability areas on ERG, let's speak about the ecology and decarbonization. We did a lot of things there. First of all, last year we approved our decarbonization strategy to minimize our CO2 emissions to 30% by 2035 and become neutral by 2060. And so far we're on track. We are heavily we started using electrification of our mining operations. So we launched a new Bolashak mine, which would be electrified. Finding better solution for our open pit mines. If we speak about the energy, we have a couple interesting projects there. One, it's a wind power plant in Chromtau, which is already started operating. Second is waste heat of tail gases from our ferrochrome production, and we have quite a big pipeline there. And last but not least, it's about energy efficiency. So we're investing heavily in modernization of our equipment to minimize consumption of CO2 emitters, like either it's a coal or it's a gas. So for example, on SSGPO, iron ore production, so we will modernize our furnace to minimize consumption of the natural gas. I think in a nutshell, that's it from me. And if you have any questions.
Well, it's a big nutshell, so I appreciate the richness.
You just need to stop me.
No, it's a great subject, and I think, you know, you nibble around the edges here for us of, you know, for a country like Kazakhstan, which is so mineral rich, and wants to do a green energy transition to be part of the value chains that supply this. I guess you bring a lot of international experience. What are the next steps for Kazakhstan? How does it prioritize for this transition? What does it do?
Good question. So basically I would say two things. First of all, it's exploration activities in terms of critical materials. So we as a country need to invest more into the exploration. And I think, so when Ivanhoe and other, let's say, international big players are entering our market, it's a good sign overall for us. And the second thing, it's so basically production of renewable energy. And making a good infrastructure here for that. I mean, as I mentioned, so we are already have 3 gigawatts. We have a good potential. We have, in Kazakhstan we started building this wind turbines factory and others. So Kazakhstan can be like a big regional hub for green energy.
All right. Well, I recognize the fact that we've actually expressed our way through a lot of the time today. So I'm going to turn to the audience. I already got one hand flying. If you could say your name, your affiliation, and keep a short question, not a statement.
Not my third question, also my suggestion for Kazakhstan Energy Company.
Do we have a microphone? Yes. It's coming.
Then
it's really coming.
Unfortunately, the sound is not going to interpreters. Interpretation is not possible. Our former President Nazarbayev was told before that future of Kazakhstan is Kazakh language. However, here at this forum, I see people speak English and Russian. My question is the following. Could you help to support, to develop Kazakh language? Could you do a specific platform where you would speak about trends? I'm asking your company. Can you tell us within your company what do you do so that to help to develop Kazakh language? Thank you so much for your question. I myself speak Kazakh language. I use ChatGPT in Kazakh language, and all our activities, I mean everything, all technologies, they use already Kazakh language in all the technologies. Such companies as Google and Apple, they promote Kazakh languages. We have large projects, for example, in Karaganda, in Ulutau region, we have some projects that we develop with regard to language. I think you just don't have full information about our social projects. We can provide you the information about our social projects regarding our language projects. The issue of Kazakh language development is a very important issue for us. At our universities, at our colleges, at our schools, Kazakh language is used. If you have any suggestions for development of Kazakh language, please submit it to our company, and after this panel session, we can talk to you about this.
Please.
One question over here. First, thank you for this good discussion. My name is Antti coming from Estonia, Europe. And I would like to ask all of the panelists in terms of the speed of green transition. Better hear me? Yes. So once again, I would like to ask about the speed of green transition. And I would like to hear the different views from the European side and the Kazakh side, because I recognize that the pace, the speed we have chosen in Europe is somewhat higher than you have chosen now in Kazakhstan. So at first, let me address Madam Minister. Do you think that our green goals are realistic, that the speed we have taken in Europe is realistic, and the technologies we have taken to replace the old fossil fuels are out of laboratory and ready to bring into real economy, being affordable? And the same question to the gentleman from mining sector of Kazakhstan. Do you think that Kazakhstan should speed up a little bit your green pace to move a bit faster? Because I remember, like Mr. Shaykhmetov, you said that your old power stations are more than 100 years ago. Should you speed up a little bit with your pace? Are you ready to bring in the new technologies? And do you think that the new technologies which you will be bringing in are mature enough to replace the existing ones? Thank you.
So I will answer. First of all, regarding Europe, we need also to clarify green energy. In the beginning, after Fukushima, nuclear energy was not green, and afterwards it is green. So the goals that are set, I think they are just slightly optimist, but we are going there, and I think most of the countries are on time. especially the EU and the most developed, France, Germany, Spain and Scandinavia. So I think most of them are on time. However, I think now with the change of the government in Germany, I think it's some reshuffling, but it's not a lot. It's a couple of years maybe we are lacking, but mostly I think we are on the time and the targets are realistic.
Speed is a good term, so yes, we are slow. So my understanding, we are slow, but we are captured with some external factors as well. I mean, we are doing our green projects and we are doing our personal transition to that, but it should be also, I would say, incentivized by the external factors as well, because we operate as a private company and we consider all the benefits. And we are moving, I think, in terms of the pace, we started slow, but pace is increasing right now, what I see at least for us. If we will see more, let's say, external incentives to that, we will go faster.
Yeah, I think in terms of the pace that is set by countries, I think obviously everybody knows how to count their money. I think the economic issue is one of the biggest ones. And so, you know, I think this was one of the kind of guiding points of the recent meetup of world leaders in Dubai. And it has been a theme throughout, I think, this discussion globally, is when the so-called global north demands that we increase our pace. Well, you know, the global south says, give us the money, give us the technology, be able to share your patents, share your know-how, and then I think we will be able to kind of meet us halfway. Because obviously, you know, when we speak about developing nations and nations that are trying to catch up with the level of life that has been provided and has been achieved in the West, or in, you know, some of those super developed countries in the East, I think, you know, that's, you know, it's an axiom. Again, everybody speaks about the same thing. So when you demand us to be faster, when you demand and ask if we're moving fast enough, we'll be able to and be willing to also kind of dish out the cash for us to be faster. So I think that's kind of like the basic answer to this question. And then also we need to consider, you know, there are also issues with these green technologies. For example, you know, like when we generate wind power, it's great. Obviously, I completely agree. We have enormous potential for wind generation, but do we have a clear answer, or what is the percentage of wind turbine blades that is being recycled in Europe at the moment? Or how much of it ends up in a landmass, in a landfill? So, you know, when we say speed up, I think we have to have a comprehensive answer, how we're going to finance it, and are we speeding up the correct technologies that we'd be able to then not come up with a, you know, come face to face with a new issue. So yeah, I think it's a complex question we won't be able to answer at this panel, but we will definitely try. So yeah.
but I promise the answers. Do we have another question? Because I definitely have one last one, very quickly. You all in one way, form or another have mentioned AI. And that's the other hot topic running around the building is AI. It's going to be, it's the future, it's wonderful. I'm not sure everybody knows what on earth AI is going to do for us, but I throw the question to you, what on earth can AI do in your different sectors? I have seen pictures of robotic trucks and even some robotic miners, which sounds very interesting. I'm very excited to see that, but what do you think?
Well, as a part of the government, first the public administration burden, it will decrease the amount, and then we have the data. It will be much faster, and the percentage for mistakes will be much lower. So, and also for the security and cyber security, which is very important for the energy security, it can help a lot. So these are very important things that are needed.
Well, yes, as we in the United States have had our grids hacked several times. I appreciate that point very much. Moving down?
Yeah, we are doing some experiments with AI. For example, we are piloting on one of our mines autonomous trucks and doing quite well. We already did it for 1 year and we want to scale it up. We're working on the predictive maintenance thing, but I think the key issue we need to work out is quality of the data. Because if you have low quality, so AI will not help you. It will destroy the value. But yes, we are working on that. We're experimenting with that. We have dedicated AI team, and hopefully, I mean, more use cases will come out.
Well, yeah, so obviously everybody's trying to use AI in one way or another. Obviously there's issues with it. Again, I'll be as concise as I can be. You know, this, I use this kind of phrase in Russian with EE as kind of like the abbreviation, and I just came up with, I think, more or less a good translation into English. So basically, when we're in our race towards artificial intelligence, let's not lose actual intelligence. So basically, in Russian, it is в гонке за искусственным интеллектом давайте не потеряем истинный интеллект. So basically, it means, you know, like there's AI can be it can be used, you know, to kind of it enhances whatever innate abilities you have. If you're smart and you're driven and you have core and, you know, good values, it enhances your abilities. But also it gives you an opportunity to kind of, if you're not those, it gives you a beautiful ability to cloak your shortcomings. It gives you, and, you know, especially like in the academic field, especially in terms of how we propose ideas, how we discuss ideas. Like I have a neural link with AI in my head right now, actually. So, but I'm just saying, you know, in general, it's a thing that is a good instrument, but we definitely should be very cautious in how we use it. With any great power comes great responsibility. So basically, yes.
Great words. Well,
yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we are at time. I think this has been a very rare and strategic discussion, and I'd like to thank our panel for actually something that was really fascinating. Thank you all so much, and thank our audience.
And we would also like to thank our moderator. Thank you so much.